and we're going to go ahead and get started with the form. So if you are over in the area with the activities, we're asking that you go ahead and move back over to the seating area. Thank you. Okay, so welcome to Your Voice 2022, an information and engagement campaign for the Marion County redistricting process. The goal of Your Voice 2022 is to hear from Indianapolis residents about their priorities for mapping future city county council districts. This is the early stages of the process, and your voice here really matters. In these forums, we hope to engage communities to greater understand the communities of interest within each district to assist in future mapping processes. I hope you have taken the opportunity to look at the information depicted on these boards and on these easels. The information is depicting the current district as is, and I hope you've taken a moment to engage, provide us some comments about your communities of interest. If you have not, we have a paper that we're handing out when we came to check in, and those are guidance points for when it comes time for public comment to help people who may want to speak that need a little bit of assistance. So I'm gonna play a really short video about Your Voice 2022, just to provide greater information about the process, redistricting as a whole, and then we'll begin the public engagement portion. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Hello, I'm Macy Moore. In this video, I'll introduce you to Your Voice 2022, an information and engagement campaign to bring awareness to the Indianapolis-Marion County redistricting process for 2022. The goal of Your Voice campaign is to hear from Indianapolis residents like you about your wants, needs, and vision for mapping future city-county council districts. So you may be asking, what is redistricting and why does it matter? Redistricting is the process by which census data is used to redraw the lines and boundaries of electoral districts within a state. This process affects districts at all levels of government, from local school boards and city-county councils to state legislatures and United States House of Representatives. The way that district lines are drawn puts voters together in groups. Through elections, these groups decide who will represent them at local, state, and national levels. The way a district lines are drawn is important. Ultimately, it can change who controls a governing body, change what policies get passed into law, and how resources are allocated. So how is city government in Indianapolis structured? Just as the United States government has the president and Congress, Indianapolis has a mayor who serves as the chief executive and council that serves as the legislative branch. All other Indiana counties have county councils, and each city has its own local council. Indianapolis is unique in Indiana and, in fact, in much of the country because since 1969, the city and the county have been unified in many respects. We call it Unigov. There is a single legislative body for the city and county called the City-County Council. The county continues to have several other officials who are separately elected, such as the prosecutor, clerk, recorder, assessor, and the treasurer. The Indianapolis City-County Council initially had 29 members, 25 who were elected from geographic districts and 4 who were elected at large from across the county. The law changed a few years ago, and now we have 25 councilors who are each elected from separate geographic districts. How are council districts set, and do they change over time? The U.S. government conducts a census every 10 years. Once the numbers are in, a process is set in motion to review geographic districts from Congress to the state legislature to local councils around the state. State law requires those districts to be reviewed to account for the new population information. The census dictates how many seats in Congress each state will get, which is why states gain or lose seats in Congress every 10 years. State legislative leaders then work to ensure the state's congressional districts all have roughly the same number of residents to ensure equal representation. They also do the same for the districts of Indiana General Assembly, both the House and Senate. This process is called redistricting. Redistricting should accurately reflect population changes and meet statutory and other legal requirements. This process is used by lawmakers to equitably allocate representation in Congress, state legislatures, and county and municipal councils. Each state has its own process in drawing district maps. By statute, the City County Council must redistrict Marion County Council districts before the end of the second year after a federal decennial census. This means the City County Council must review the districts and make any changes in 2022. State statute requires the City County Council to pass an ordinance that divides Marion County into 25 districts that, 1, are compact, subject only to natural boundary lines, such as railroads, major highways, rivers, creeks, parks, and major industrial complexes. 2, contain as nearly as possible equal population, and 3, do not cross precinct boundary lines. Precincts are the smallest geographic units in legislative districting. Several precincts are grouped together to make up a council district. The precinct boundaries must also be reviewed. The county executive, in the case of Marion County, the mayor, is charged with the task of re-precincting in conjunction with the new census. This is underway and must be completed before council redistricting can begin. How will the City County Council determine the new district boundaries? The current City County Council leadership team has decided to solicit broad public input on the council redistricting process. Accordingly, all City County Council members and all residents of Marion County have the opportunity to provide input into the redistricting process. Engaging Solutions is a local consulting firm that will facilitate public engagement in the redistricting process, so all communities of interest will have an opportunity to be heard. A community of interest is a group of people from a particular geographic area who have similar social and economic interests. For example, some residents may want to share how important a community center is and why it would be valuable to have its service area and the community it serves be inside 1 or 2 districts instead of being split up among many districts. How will the public have an opportunity to provide input in the redistricting process? There will be 9 public forums where Marion County residents can have a voice in the redistricting process. Participants will be encouraged to share their perspective on the greatest strengths of their local community, along with their thoughts about what makes their neighborhoods unique and what their hopes are for its future. Each forum location, date, and time is listed on the Your Voice 2022 website. If you cannot participate in a public forum, you are encouraged to provide your comments in the designated space on the website. In March 2022, after all forms are complete, a report will be published on the public input process. Maps will be introduced to the City County Council for review and consideration in the spring of 2022. And a final redistricting ordinance will be submitted to the City County Council for a vote at the conclusion of the redistricting process. Please plan to participate in the forum. This is an opportunity for your voice to be heard in the Marion County redistricting process. We look forward to seeing you at one of the forums.
Thank you for watching that video, and we will now begin to move to the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. Before we do so, there are a few public ground rules, that we would like to remind you of before we're moving into the public input period. In order for everyone to have a fair chance to speak and be heard, it is important that we observe the following rules. First, each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Second, any public comments must reasonably relate to redistricting. Third, speakers who stray from the subject under consideration or become repetitive may be asked to move on to their next point or conclude their comments. And finally, attendees who are disruptions that prevent tonight's meeting from proceeding in a reasonably efficient manner may be removed. Please remember that some types of threatening speech or incitements of violence are protected in the First Amendment. We will deal with those if they come. However, we do not think that they will. Before we go ahead and get started, I want to acknowledge the counselors in the room and give them an opportunity to come up and speak. We'll start with Councilor Booth.
Thank you. First of all, give a moment of thanks for Macy and Hope and what the work Engaging Solutions is doing. I think it's a very important process, so we appreciate their involvement with this. Also, Greg Stowers and his firm and his group in helping us get through this as well. Just want to highlight a couple of quick things. One, the precincts, in addition to our council districts, are also being redone this year. In fact, they have been done already. So your precinct may have changed from the last time you voted. So I encourage you to check that. Some of them have been renumbered, some of them have been redrawn. So make sure you check your current precinct because it may have changed again since the last time you voted. So appreciate everyone coming. This is my third or fourth one, and each one's gotten a little bigger, I think, in population and in attendance, and so that's a good thing. So we encourage you to participate. We encourage you to share your voice. No one's words are unheeded, and we will compile all that information and do the best job we can with the information coming up with the new district. So thank you again, and I do appreciate your public engagement. Without it, a lot of things don't get done. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor Gray.
I'd just like to reinforce what Councilor Booth said. Thank you all for coming and also participating in this event. This is, all politics and everything starts at home, at the lower level, the ground roots. So one of the ways to ensure that you are actively engaged and participating in this is that you help to design or help to give your input into what you would like to see your city council district look like. We've been pretty successful in the past few years. We've done some great jobs at designing these. But one of the cries has always been that there's not enough public input. So this year, the Democratic Caucus, led by President Vaughn, we've decided to make this a program that is put in and have a lot of input from the people that we represent. So I would encourage you to put whatever it is that you would like to see in your district up on the board so that we can discuss it and maybe include it. Everybody likes parks. So if you think you need more parks, put more parks up there. You think you need more river, we can't put your river in there, but we can improve the river that you have or the lake that you have there. So once again, I'd just like to thank you all for coming out and make sure that you take an active role and speak out. This is your opportunity to be a part of this process. And we encourage you to make sure that you participate. And don't be afraid to put crazy things up there because you never know what might seem to be crazy could be a very good idea. So once again, thank you for coming. Enjoy your stay. I don't have to read the notes, so write to your notes.
Put that on me. All right, so I do want to recognize the Pike Township trustee, Ms. Johnson. Thank you. So your voice here really mattered. Again, your voice here really matters. So we're opening the public comment portion of tonight's meeting. And we want you guys to really share with us some things about your communities of interest. You can say them freely or I will pick on you. Either or. So who wants to go first? Let's open it up. We can talk about what are some of your advocacy concerns? What do you see in your community? What are your needs? What are your boundaries? What does that look like? Would anyone like to speak?
Yeah, can I speak?
Yeah, you can come up.
I don't know how many of you live in District 8, but I represent District 8, which is a very good council district. Our boundaries are 30th Street on the south, Michigan Road on the east, and we go all the way over to Lafayette Road, and then we come Michigan Road to 62nd Street over to Moeller up to 71st over to Zionsville Road and back down to 62nd Street. Very interesting district. We have great for education. We have the international school down Michigan Street, Michigan Avenue, and we also have the Pike Township schools, which are excellent. And the only thing that we might be a little short on is maybe public parks. We have one big park, and that's Northwest Park, which is on 62nd Street. But other than that, we have a great home ownership. We do not have a lot in my district. We don't have a lot of rental properties. Most of the people are homeowners. We have a great demographic of people. We have just about any nationality that you can name, we have living in there. So I would encourage you to, if you live in District 8, to let me know, or let the committee know what it is that you think that can improve upon District 8. Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys don't have to come up here, I will come to you. How about that? All right? So what are you proud about here in Pike? In your district, what are you proud of? If we make eye contact, that means you have to talk. So everybody's gonna look at me. Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Raleigh. I live in 46268, it's district number 5. One of the things I'm proud about, having been a resident for 30 years, is the fact that we have so many services. Community hospital, St. Vincent Hospital, I should say. The grocery stores, there's grocery stores on every other corner. The schools, we're in Pike Township School District, and there are at least 3 elementary buildings in my district. So I'm proud of the fact that if I want access to a fire department or to a hospital, they're right there within 4 or 5 minutes. That's one of the reasons why I selected to live there and continue to live there, because it's a great resource for individuals like myself.
Thank you. You're raising your hand, you're about to do next.
I will. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Beverly. I'm Pike Township for 40 years, graduate of Pike High School, and still involved in the community here. A lot of community work, and my family does a lot of work in the city. But me and Monroe works with some of my family in the fire department, and now he's retired. But yeah, Pike is a really good township. I come from the city, but the city is a great city township as well. So I know the city very well. I've been here a long time. So I would say some of the work that Monroe and his team has done in our community specifically is help us understand exactly how a homeowner association should work and work properly, and then all the amenities that surround us, how we can benefit from those amenities as well. So you mentioned the park. We also have great street cleaning in here. You know, I guess he works with sheriffs quite a bit, but she's still out here. Sheriff Pryor, they take care of this community. We don't have any issue with street cleaning and potholes. Pretty much they nail that very well. One of the things I do, me and my wife is getting involved in, is how well we can make our own personal community better by getting involved and doing the work we need to do in our community, by joining HOA boards and having some stake in the game, right? So, but it's a good community. Actually, I've been here 40 years. The people are great. I spend a lot of time with some of the small businesses here, just so I can still keep our community vibrant, right? In order for us to stay out of the city's pocket a lot, is we create our own small businesses around here and let small business be an economic engine for our town.
Thank you. So you mentioned small businesses. A lot of times small businesses can be the landmarks in our communities, right? So what are some of those landmarks? Whether it's a small business, a school, what are those for you? Would anyone like to share? Landmarks.
I'm Greg Stowers. I'm the original Greg Stowers. That's my son.
Don't hurt him, Mike.
And one of my concerns was, I live in Washington Township. I've been living in Washington Township for years, and all my kids are going to North Central High School. Now, I've noticed they've done a lot of work with the middle schools, but they haven't done much with the high school. And I'm concerned because the high school is one of the things that draws people to the community, keeps people in the community. So if you have a dilapidated high school, then it's going to affect the community itself. But one of my concerns is when are they going to do something to upgrade North Central High School? Because West Wayne they've upgraded that, Eastwood has been upgraded, but the high school itself, I don't know if any change been made to that in years. So that's one of my bigger concerns as a parent in Washington Township.
Thank you. So he spoke to some of his concerns in Washington Township being the status or state of what the school looks like, the infrastructure. What other concerns do you have, whether you live in Washington Township, Pike, Center, what are those?
Well, again, good evening, everyone. I'm a trustee out in Pike Township, Annette Johnson. And what I would like to share is, of course, I'm very proud of Pike Township. I wouldn't be the trustee, I wouldn't be in this community for over 20 plus years. But the concern that I had, and I have had some conversations with some of our city councilors, is the transportation as far as Indigo, making sure we have some extended routes, some more routes in Pike Township. It seems to me that's an area that hasn't been visited in years. And I just think if we could have more conversations with Indigo to get some, more routes, extend some routes. My office is located at 56 and Lafayette Road, the trustee's office. And, a lot of times individuals come there for need, and they don't have transportation to get there. And so the bus will drop them off over near the Walmart, which is further down. And just imagine walking, 20-something blocks to get to the trustee's office. So that's a concern I have. And then on a fun note, a concern I have is bike lanes. I ride my bike a lot. If you're on my Facebook page, you'll see me out riding my bike with groups of other people. And I noticed in Pike Township, our bike lanes are very scarce. And I have even, rode my bike to work. And I'm on 56th Street, cars coming, and I'm kind of dodging in and out. Of course, they see me with my beautiful little red shiny bike, but just imagine if they didn't see me. So it would be nice if we could get some extended bike lanes as well.
So we touched on transportation as being a need or accessibility, right? Multimodal forms of transportation. What are some of those other concerns or key things you see within your community? Anyone?
One of the things I noticed is the number of homeless people on 86th and Michigan Road and around that area. And it seems as if the homeless people, they have an established residence. We see the same person at the same location year after year after year. And I'm wondering about the availability of shelters, the availability of additional resource for people who find themselves at that stage in life of homelessness.
That's a good question. Okay, so in terms of resources, what's available in your township? What do you guys have that people can go to? Here? What else? Anything else to go?
The library.
The library? Is there any parks? No?
Northwest Way, and then we have Eagle Creek Road as well.
Okay. So you have the schools, the parks, Eagle Creek Park,
Library.
the libraries here. Anything else you can think of? Is there anything that you treasure, that you view as a gem outside of the schools? Because you guys have mentioned the schools.
Walmart.
Walmart.
Hi, my name is Carol. I've been in the township for 40-some years. And I live right up the road, and I believe that our natural resources are one of our overlooked and abused prizes and gems. Just this year, Pike Township has had over 50 acres of forest cut down in 3 different areas. We have a creek that runs through Pike Township. We have a lot of creeks, but a major one that runs from Hamilton County all the way to the White River, runs through the Crooked Creek. So back when the master plan was put in place, in the overlays of that, we had discussions about putting conservation corridor overlays on it, and there was a lot of different plans that were brought into it from the from the parks to the greenways to zoning to compile that final document. And I would like to see that our counselors would help us, which Monroe, I think you have been very vocal with the land use cases, but to abide by that document that took a lot of time and preparation to come up with as a voice for the citizens to give their input, to utilize that and to follow the criteria that were decided upon in that document as the driving force behind whether something in a land use case or zoning case is approved, denied, or up for further discussion. So I think our natural resources are something that we should embrace and keep, and we should look at areas that are vacant and boarded up to utilize those for development and keep our natural spaces natural. And I'm right there with Annette. We have one of the largest business parks and industrial parks in the city. We have 3 of the largest senior centers, Marquette Manor, Rub and Run, and Crooked Creek Towers right here. We have a slew of apartments. We have density like no other. So we have the availability for affordable housing. We have business and jobs there, but we don't have any way for anybody, like Annette says, to get off a bus or to ride a bike or to walk safely to those jobs.
Thank
Did I
you.
go over my 2
No,
minutes?
you're fine, you're fine. Everyone gets 30 more seconds to their time. So okay.
I went over.
Would anyone else like to speak in terms of their concerns? What neighborhoods do you have here? So Crooked Creek, is that considered a neighborhood here?
There's 15 different Crooked Creeks, I think, and a creek itself. So there's I'll let somebody else answer.
Go ahead. You were
Well,
about
you
to-
have Twin Creeks, Kessler Gardens, you have,
I'll patch you this.
that's all right. There's several Twin Creeks, these are homeowner situations. There's a lot of apartments, as she mentioned, which we have a lot of density, but we also have a lot of space here. But Twin Creeks is really large. Kessler Gardens is good. We also have PTRA, and we also have where the golf course is, Saddlebrook, which is a pretty large community on both sides, north and south of 56th Street, that have, changed hands quite a bit. Even the golf course has changed hands, but for the better, I would say. But as a growing community, you have pretty much in every part of Pike Township that Monroe identified, there are really tremendous home ownership and some new homes coming up, and some smaller spaces that's left over from taking away all the natural sources here. This whole land use before was all swamp land, and I used to run through it when it was swamp land. It's now all neighborhoods than trails that we do run on the backside.
What would you say are the identities of each of those communities? Like, what makes them different?
Obviously, the demographics make them different, right? Now, some of the demographics have changed over the years, which is obvious, right? You have people moving out, people moving in. But I would say the one thing that is systemically good for all those neighborhoods is that people try to maintain those neighborhoods. And they try to make Pike Township different. So when somebody does come in that don't buy into the culture or don't buy into that way of living and try to impede change that's not good for us, there's enough neighbors that facilitate the betterment of the neighborhood versus the detriment of the neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. So you tapped on the culture here in Pike. How would you describe the culture here? Diverse? What does that diversity look like? Is it in color, race, ethnicity, hobbies?
It's all of that, and I would say it's all of that, and Pike Township has been deemed as the international marketplace of the city. So when you come in off of 38th and Lafayette Road, you see the big arches there. We are deemed the international marketplace of the city. So because we have every nationality that lives in Pike Township, and we have a beautiful global center that just did a big grand opening where you just have everyone is welcome, beautiful museum and so forth.
So I would definitely say that's something that makes you guys unique, right? Or one of your gems. What else is like that? Is there any other cultural locations here that people use or resources that make you unique? That you can't, so if you were able to draw the lines now, right? What would have to be there? What's something that makes your district your district? Would it be, if you remove the international market, would it not feel the same?
It wouldn't feel the same. I think if you remove that, if you remove Eagle Creek Park,
Again, sorry.
that's okay. I would say if you did remove the international marketplace, that whole concept, that would be very, would not be good. Just imagine if you remove Eagle Creek Park, because that's lots of things going on, lots of land that we want to preserve as well. So we cannot not have that. We have to have our, IOPD district headquarters, which we are excited about because we're getting a bigger one, a new location. So we have to have that as well. I think you have to have your small government, which is small claims court, trustee's office, such as myself. You have to have those entities because we service people, that's government that's closest to the people in your community. So I would say that. This center is very important as well. We have to have this huge center here because it does service a lot of families and so forth. So I would say that as well. We have to have our fire department again, which I oversee that as well. I mean, like Ms. Mary said, the fire departments and so forth, that's a need. If something was to happen to your family, a fire or medical emergency, they could get there to you within, 2 to 3 minutes, and that's very important. That's life and death. Yeah.
You named off a few. Is there any more? I'm like you.
I think I'll just add one, and I think we have in Pike Township, I know that we have Washington Township representatives here also, but we have a lot of great schools. We were fortunate to have a lot of good buildings, good teachers, and we need to embrace those, that administration and make sure that we support them. We also have a really nice Performing Arts Center at the Pike Performing Arts Center. So if you haven't had a chance, show up over there with the swimming pool there. So
Yeah.
it's a nice asset.
So you brought up that Pike and Washington are relatively close, right? What are the differences between those two communities? What makes Pike different than Washington? Or what makes Washington different than Pike? The schools, right? When you were comparing North Central to Pike, that might be a difference, right?
Yeah, in terms of the upgrades.
Anything else?
I'm not sure this is true, but the density of Washington Township, I would think, is is much more dense in terms of population than Pike. I'm not certain it's true, but it seems that way to me. In terms of, because even if you're looking for homes in Washington Township, it's almost impossible to find them. So I would think that the density of population is probably about greater in Washington Township. It seems to me there's more space in Pike Township.
That's a good point in terms of people being able to actually buy and own homes, right? Is it just the density? Is it the cost? What else? Is there anything else?
The cost is, if you're trying to buy a house in Washington Township, at any level, it's extremely high. So the cost, I think, is different.
So it could definitely be a concern. Do you guys share that in Pike?
I mean, I like what he said. I think that's a really valid point. I think as far as economic, Washington Township is to me a little more expensive.
Yeah.
And so that may be one of the issues. I mean, Pike, we have a lot of, we have some housing additions that are going up right as we speak. I know there's one across the street down the way there on near 79th Street, but Pike seems like it's building and it's popping up houses and condos all over the place.
So I know you guys had mentioned that there's a lot of apartments over in Pike Township. Would you say that that's the same in Washington?
I'm not sure it said many, but there are quite a few apartments in Washington Township. But I'm not sure about Pike. I know there are quite a few, particularly like on 71st Street. You have several apartments there in Washington Township.
And how would you describe the housing stock? Are they mostly older homes, newer homes, newly renovated?
In Washington Township, they're older homes.
They're older.
And here they're mostly new, because you were talking about the new divisions going up, would you say? Or?
Yes, and I think what else that we have, I think it's a gem, is we have a lot of senior living homes, and that have went up in the last, 5 to 10 years as well. Of course, Robin Run, Cookie Creek, and we have 3 or 4 right there between 52nd and 56th and Georgetown that are new. So I think that's something to think about too. I would say Pike Township is preparing, for our senior citizens, because again, we have really tapped into making sure that we are building senior living homes and residences, even for individuals that can just live on their own in their condos.
Right.
I'll just add that senior citizens are, of course, the most fragile people of our community. And we have a sense of safety in College Park, which is where I live, that we wouldn't trade for anything. We can walk at night without feeling that we're going to get robbed or mugged. You can walk to a grocery store, you can walk for ice cream in the summer. It's just a feeling of safety. And I think that comes from the fact that people don't want to move away from that area, and we have the same people who have been there 40, 50 years.
I just wanted to add to a question that you asked earlier, and that was what has to be in the community. And I hope I'm not too far off kilter because Indianapolis is my community, but I'm outside of this particular community. And one of the things that I see that a community has to have is sometimes things that we just, I don't want to say take for granted, but just because they're there, we assume that they'll always be there. Here we have banking, shopping, job creativity and jobs, food, and that's in restaurants as well as grocery stores. I know in my community, those are very limited. And I'm in a Township neighborhood community.
What would you say we do have, if you could name some landmarks within Crown Hill, the Crown Hill community?
Oh, okay, I didn't want to take that on.
No, go ahead.
We have quite a few, of course. Number one would be the Children's Museum. It's amazing, not just for our locals, but for people traveling in from across the world to come to the Children's Museum. And all that it offers, families and children. And of course, the Crown Hill Cemetery, both the cemetery as well as the foundation. And I'm going to have to say the jewel in our community are the residents. They are amazing and being neighborhood, trying to be neighborhood. But we have a very engaged and active neighborhood association, and I think that's the spoke, if you will, on that wheel. It helps to service the connector between the residents and all of the community partners.
And what neighborhood association, is that Mapleton Fall Creek?
Yeah, that's Crown Hill Neighborhood Association.
Okay. I'm not just throwing out names.
No, that's quite all right, thank you.
And thank you. So if you are not from this township, please feel free to answer any of the questions that are posed. You can come to any of the forums, so we're more than welcome to have you speak. Something I want to tap in on was the senior population here. When we think about like what this neighborhood looks like, is it a lot of older community members? Is it younger? Is it an aging population here? People retiring?
I think the average age from the census was around 35. But we do have a large population of senior community too, so.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, I do want to point you guys back to your guides that we passed out, and there are a few questions on here, if you want to look. So one of them is to describe some of your advocacy concerns. So we heard some of those, right? We talked about greenways, we talked about transportation, we talked about the senior population here, feeling safe. We asked, another question was, share what makes your community unique. And you guys threw some of those out there. You said your school district, right? This center. We asked to complete this statement. My neighborhood wouldn't feel like my neighborhood without. And you shared some of those gems that had to be here for it to feel like your township, right? What are the things that make your neighborhood strong? That might be one that we haven't fully tapped into. What makes Pike Township or Washington Township for that matter strong? Or 46226, 46218, what makes that neighborhood strong? Would anyone like to share?
Well, we have the Jewish Community Center, and it's wonderful. You know, we've been going there for years and years. And every time I go, I see all friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And working out. It's wonderful.
Good. The Jewish Community Center, that's a good one. I forgot that was in Washington.
If I may, and I didn't properly introduce myself earlier, I forgot, that's why the sage elder statesman Monroe Gray introduced himself properly. I'm in District 3, which is the northeast side, roughly Keystone to Shadeland, 96 down to Kessler. So I have the eastern part of Washington Township and the western part of Lawrence Township. So that's my area. One thing you mentioned, what makes any community strong, I think it's really helps with, and you mentioned it briefly, and that is the local homeowners associations. That really is the fabric, in my opinion, of the local communities, and that's where a lot of action gets done. As an elected official, I pay a lot of attention to my local neighborhood groups, and I go to their annual meetings, I go to their monthly meetings. I also talk to individual residents, that's important as well, but I am much more likely to be interactive and responsive to a homeowners association that represents 255 homes, for example, than I would one-off contacts from various constituents. You get a lot more done. The city listens to you as a collective voice as a homeowner versus Dan Boots, one voice in the northeast side of town. So I really encourage people to get involved with your local neighborhood group. If you don't have one, consider forming one. If you don't have a crime watch for your neighborhood, consider getting one. These are things that really, I think, build community, build your neighborhoods, makes them stronger and more desirable. And I think that's what we're all here for. I want to talk a little bit about, someone mentioned environmental issues. They're big in our community. We've just now, for the first time ever, council has formed the new Committee on Environmental Sustainability, which I'm proud to be a member of. So we are taking these issues much more seriously. We're trying to engage and invigorate the various groups involved in that. We talked about green resources and trees, and you have the Hoosier Environmental Council and the Forest Alliance. I try not to make these issues those various issues and interests political. To me, they're just common good things to do. So I encourage people to get involved in those groups as well. Someone mentioned bimodal accessibility, very important. In this city, we don't want everybody driving cars all the time. We can't afford to pay for bigger streets, faster highways, more lanes. The current trend is the other way. We're restricting lanes, we're getting rid of streets, we're making things more walkable, so we encourage people to push for those. Get your neighborhood involved. If you don't have a sidewalk or you have a little park but no one can get to it unless you get in your car, push for some paths, push for some sidewalks. That's how it gets done. And get your local councilor involved, and get your local state representative involved, and get your state senator. It takes a village, really, to get these major things done, and I encourage you to do that. And the final thing is housing is very important, obviously. And in today's world, you have to provide, in my opinion, options, various options to provide rental for younger people that can't afford a home yet, but they need to live nearby. They may have a job. You don't want to force, particularly in the service industries, you don't want to force your people that have to live in the next county because they can't afford to live near their jobs. To me, that's not a good formula for long-term success. You also need to provide for senior housing, as we mentioned. And not everyone needs a 1.5 acre lot to build a house on. So we need to keep creative about maybe people often apartments, or is that Peace, Monroe, or are you telling me 2 minutes?
You're so passionate.
I know I am. I also forgot that I wanted to make sure, introduce Chairman of the Public Safety Committee and our local District 1 Councilor, Leroy Robinson, who walked in. So those are just some things that I think, compiling that's been said, should be priorities. And having been told to sit down by Councilman Gray, thanks for the reminder.
Okay, so one thing that you did bring up was the districts, right? You're in the northeast corner, correct?
Yes.
So how many districts are in Pike Township, would you say? 5. What makes those 5 districts different, right? What are the districts in this room? Do you guys know what district you live in?
8's in the house.
8?
8, 5.
8, 5, 1. Okay, so 8, 5, and 1. What are the differences between District 8, 5, and 1? Or what are the boundaries between 8, 5, and 1? Does anyone know?
District 8 is more the southern part, and includes a large part of the center Pike. It doesn't go. 71st Street is the northern boundary, and Lafayette Road is the west boundary. So we're kind of, the Pike section of District 8 is primarily in the center.
And I just thought of something unique to Pike Township too, is that we have 2 of the oldest roads in Marion County, with Lafayette Road and Michigan Road, that were built and completed through Indianapolis.
So a little history there, yeah, so something that's unique. Is Lafayette Road in one district or is it in 2? I honestly don't know.
Michigan Road entails all 3 of the districts.
You said it's in all 3?
On District 8, from 38th Street to...
I'm gonna have to teach this. I'm hard of hearing, I'm sorry.
These other guys are new district, man, they young. District 8 is on Michigan Road is from 38th Street to 62nd Street. And then north of 62nd Street, part of that is John Bosch District, which is 7, I think. And then further north is District 1.
Okay.
So we have about 3. And then we have on the southwest part, we have District 2.
10.
What's Maggie?
10.
10 and District 10. So Pike is surrounded by districts. It's cut out pretty good.
Okay, you said Pike is cut up pretty good, and that Lafayette Road is in 3 different districts, right? So are some of those gyms that you guys are listing as being part of Pike Township, are they actually in your district? If you think about it. So you had mentioned International Marketplace. Which district are you in?
I'm in Monroe, so it'll be 8.
So it's in your district?
International, no, that's in Maggie's.
Maggie's?
So when we start thinking about these landmarks, right, where are they actually at? You may identify your community as Pike, right? Your broader community. But that smaller community, your district, what is there? And that's what we're trying to get at, right? So what are those streets? What are those communities? What are those landmarks that are specific to your district? So we thought about Pike as a whole. Now let's get smaller. Let's get to the ground of it, right?
The key difference between Pike
back
and
again.
Washington. The key difference between Washington and Pike Township is Pike Township is much younger. Pike is Washington is old established, but the majority of Pike Township is new construction, new businesses, and therefore the population there is probably younger, and also that the businesses there are much different. But Pike Township is very diverse. It has you can go however you want to spend to whatever you want. It's a great district, great township.
So you said you're over District 8, right?
District 8, yes.
What are some of the landmarks in your district?
One of the landmarks in my district would be Marion College,
Marion College.
the International School, and we also have the Pike Performance Center is in my district as well.
Okay. So I'm gonna pick on the counselors. You're in District 1, correct?
Sure.
Am I? Don't do me like that now. No, I'm trying to look. What are some of those gyms within your community?
Me.
Don't do that.
Favorite Car Click Center, number 1. This is our community center for our district. This is in the southeast corner of our district. This is at one of the gyms, St. Vincent Hospital. We have Traders Point, College Park, and we have the Traders Point Creamery in our district. We also have Lafayette Road, historic in here, which was the route they took to Chicago years ago. So those are probably the biggest gyms. Bray Buff is in our district as well. So very nice.
The pyramids.
Pyramids, yeah, College Park, yeah, pyramids. So thank you. For my days.
And then Boots, what district were you again?
I am in 3.
3. And what are the gyms or landmarks in your community?
I would say we ironically have no high schools in the district, but we do have Washington Township Middle School and Elementary School. And they're all 5-star blue ribbon schools. And as mentioned many times previously, the education systems here all across the north side of the county, I think, are very strong. And that's a big drawing factor. And we talked about schools and education. And I think some of the key is backing and supporting public education, because that's what helps build communities and neighborhoods. And the money that's spent for private education tends to sometimes, in my opinion, splinter some of that. So I'm a big supporter and came up through Washington Township and the foundations and things of that sort. We're heavy retail in Castleton. We have fashion, people at the Crossing Fashion Center. And then on the northern part is some very higher end housing. Those are the landmarks. We have community pool, Sound Park, so we have a golf course, a park, and a community mini parks pool. So those are probably, and it's what draws a lot of people to our area is you can live in a quiet neighborhood but be 5 minutes from the interstate, 15 minutes from downtown, 5 minutes from the Fashion Mall or Castleton. So congestion's an issue, so we deal with that. But those are some of the highlights. And the strong, as I mentioned earlier, lion's share of the neighborhoods in our area have pretty strong neighborhood associations. So they do a lot. They have events for the people. They have seasonal parties. They have Easter egg hunts. They have Halloween parties. They have Christmas luminaire nights, things like that that really build, I think, some neighborhood camaraderie that just spills over into everything else.
Thank you. So you guys have heard from all of the counselors in the room that represent the districts here today. Would you agree with the landmarks, or did you know that that was actually in your district? Or did you know that some of those landmarks you mentioned weren't in your district? Y'all can just say yes, no, you can shout it out.
Yeah, we agree with it.
Okay, so we have around 30 minutes left, and I'm gonna start picking on people that I haven't heard from at this point. Courtney, you ready? Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Courtney. I do not live in Pike Township, but I have two goddaughters who live out here, who I see very often. I live east. I live 46218 zip code, Arlington Woods neighborhood. I work west, work all the way at the airport. My daughter goes to school on the west side. She goes to Cold Spring. What I love about my community is that it would not be the same without my church. My church is Eastern Star Church, and we live in a food desert. So what our church did was they created affordable housing and built a supermarket, but also partnered with a financial institution to bring us a credit union. I volunteer with Indy Parks, with the Frederick Douglass Park. What I love about that community center and what they do for that neighborhood is that when my daughter aged out of the summer camp program, they created a position for her to stay there. And I feel like I don't get that kind of sense of unity in any of the other neighborhoods that I visit. At times I have to travel almost up to Geist just to go to the grocery store to get the good quality groceries that I'm looking for, and that's a shame to me. What I like to think of, I've come to these meetings, this is about my 4th time, and I love hearing like the highlights about your neighborhoods, and I'll go back and think, man, we don't have that. I look at this as reminiscent of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the Hunger Games movies or books, but my thought process behind the redistricting is if you were confined to your neighborhood or your district, and I mean like not the pandemic and you can't go out, you know, after a certain time, but if you like were forced to stay where you live and you had to like show a card that says I live in this district, you're not allowed to cross over to another district, would you be able to survive where you live? And my answer is no. So the redistricting process would benefit our community and several communities throughout the city of Indianapolis. I'm not saying let's take and deplete resources from other communities, but if you have it, come alongside another neighborhood and share what you're doing right, what works well for you, and try to get another neighborhood that's near yours to the same level. That's all.
Snaps. That was good. That was good. I actually want to end on that. Let me see if I got one more person that has not spoken, but that was a very good point. If you were confined to your neighborhood with the resources that you have, so we do have those maps on the side over here that are depicting your current council district as is, and that's overlaid with hospitals, your distance to grocery stores. Would you survive? That's a really good point. And a thought when thinking about what are those gems, what are those resources, and what it is that you want in this campaign, Your Voice 2022, you want to be reflected. I'm going to pick on you now. I've looked at you a few times.
I probably do, and I was thinking about what you said, what she said, because I listened to her also, and I was thinking about what could I go to because I live in District 8. And I can still go to the park, still go to the grocery store. I might not be able to go to the Y. I might not be able to go to some of the restaurants, so that is a good thought process. One of the things that I shared with them is about redistricting. I was the Marion County representative for the Indiana Commission on Civil Rights, Indiana Commission on Redistricting. And so that was a conversation that we had in the beginning. And these type of meetings that we're having now, we had them all around the state. Of course, they were all Zoom meetings. And one of the things that I'm thinking is I'm hearing some of the same things that we heard in those meetings. And the problem is, if we pick them, will the people who are in charge make that decision? Will they actually hear us or just brush us off? And then that's an example of what actually happened with the state. You know, what we picked, what we said, how we tried to keep the communities together, and looking at those maps kind of brought back memories. And I was sharing with her that they are looking for people who want to be on the Marion County, and they need 11 people. And I would say for the state, there were 11 of us, and they interviewed over 200 people. Well, 200 people went out for them, and 60 people they interviewed, and I was one of the 11 that they chose. And like I said, I represented Marion County. But having these meetings all around the state, the same thing over. I can just take a pen and I can just everybody's saying the same thing. So I'm thinking, this is good. We're doing all this work. I just don't want it to go in vain. And I say in vain, and I share it with Annette because we do Zumba together. And how come they're really frustrated because something didn't happen. In fact, the state legislature just honored us on Monday for the work that we did. It wasn't a paid position, but it's a lot of work, and they're looking for people. And so that was the question, the comment, and when I was talking to you, I said, it is a lot of time, it's a lot of hard work, but I just hope the people that are, and I see two of the council people left, will make that decision. And I did send a letter out to the city of Indianapolis in December. And I sent him, I got a chance to talk to him, wrote me that. I sent him one too, an email. Have I heard back? Is this paper talk? And I said, and I know him. You know, he was in the same, of course he was older than me, he was in the same high school, he was ahead of me. And I understand politics probably better than anybody in this room. So I know what's going on, and that's all that I'm saying is I just hope all of this isn't in vain. And I reached out before this was even formed to ask what was going to be happening in Marion County. Thank you.
No, you're fine. All right. Would anyone else like to speak before we conclude the public input portion? I was waiting.
Perfect segue. Well, you did a really good job tonight, Macy, leading this discussion, and I really thank everybody for all of the public comments. I've been to 7 of these meetings. I'm Julia Vaughn, the Executive Director for Common Cause Indiana. We work on voting rights and have a lot of experience working on redistricting. As Clara mentioned, she was one of the citizens who worked really hard on state and congressional redistricting last year to make sure that there was a real grassroots movement making input on that important issue. So we're doing the same thing for Marion County, and we have a really great public mapping tool that all of the input that came out tonight on landmarks and what you really like in your community, would love to have you all use this online mapping tool to make sure that that kind of input, as Clara says, is very clearly communicated to the City County Council, because they will be the folks who have the ultimate say on all of this. So really appreciate everybody taking time to come out tonight. And if you have an interest in working with us using this public mapping tool or with the Independent Citizens Commission, I've got cards here tonight and we'd love to talk to you about that further. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thanks for all the hard work you ladies have done with this process. And again, as Clara said, it's really important that we keep communicating with the council so that our wishes will be clear on this very important topic.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close out. I'm gonna do anybody want to provide any last words? Going once? Twice? Okay. So one thing I want to encourage everyone to do, if you had not had the opportunity to engage with the activity over here on this wall, I would love if you would come over here and provide some of those things in written format, what we talked about today, landmarks, those gems for your district, and put those up there. One thing that I do want to say, and I'm going to leave it on something that Courtney had said in her statement, right? If you were confined to just your district, would you be able to survive? Why don't we go ahead and throw some of those responses in the catch-all phrase, the catch-all part, right? And you could write, no, I wouldn't survive because we don't have access to X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Why don't we try to do that? Why don't we try to do something a little different to make sure that while we know what those landmarks are that you have, we need to also know what it is that you're lacking, that a district next to you may have. Important topics, right? Well, thank you all for coming out to the Pike Redistricting Forum. This is our last public forum, and hopefully you all have signed up over here in the sign-in or provided your email address. We will be providing more information on some other opportunities to touch base with us and to continue this dialogue. I also want to point to on the YourVoice2022.com website, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, there is an option to leave comment. Those comments will be incorporated into the engagement report as was discussed in the video in the beginning tonight. If you want to have anything written, right, you guys have made your public comment, it is recorded, we will take note of that. However, if you want to write something and provide some type of written feedback, please go to that comment box and leave it there. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, please leave your email address if you want to be kept in the loop, because we will have some other opportunities to engage in the very near future for Your Voice 2022. Again, thank you so very much.
Thank you.